Imagine the ground trembles beneath your feet, not with an earthquake but with a pulse older than memory, as though the earth itself is breathing out a silent invitation. You stand at the edge of a yawning fissure, its gaping maw swallowed by shadow. Above, the sky is a bruise of dusk. Below, the world you know gives way to echoes that have woven through human souls for millennia. Listen. Somewhere deep in that darkness, a faint whisper stirs, calling you to step beyond the boundary of the ordinary and into a realm where light bends, time fractures, and secrets long buried wait impatiently for discovery. Tonight you are not an observer. You are an initiate. Welcome to exploring the mysteries of the underworld. This journey will lead us into the hidden architecture of myth, psychology, and ritual, but it will not serve up neat definitions or tidy conclusions. Instead, we'll wade into corridors carved from living rock, encounter corridors lined with obsidian mirrors that reflect our unspoken fears, and stand before gates forged in the imagination of ancient priests who knew that true power lives in the interplay between shadow and spark. We begin by tracing the footsteps of the earliest pilgrims, Inanna, who stripped herself of every jewel and garment to confront her sister Ereshkigal in the realm of the dead, Orpheus, whose music coaxed Hades to loosen his iron grip, and countless seekers across Sumer, Egypt, Greece, and beyond, who ventured below ground not to meet cadaverous horrors, but to touch a source of renewal. What drove these seekers into darkness, and what did they bring back? Those are the questions that will haunt our exploration, but our descent won't stop at dusty scrolls and half-forgotten myths. We'll unlock the symbolic code that threads through the underworld, serpents that coil around primordial columns, rivers that mark thresholds between worlds, and stones that glow with a light no one can snuff. We'll speak with modern visionaries, philosophers and psychologists, who have uncovered the underworld's blueprint in the corridors of the mind. You'll see how Plato's myth of air reframes judgment as choice, and how Carl Jung's model of the shadow reveals the underworld as an inner landscape we navigate every day. Along the way, I'll guide you through 3 initiation gates. The Gate of Echoes, where past echoes and unhealed wounds rise to greet you. The Gate of Shadows, where the beliefs and cultural scripts that shape your reality demand a reckoning. And finally, the Gate of Revelation, where the underworld's greatest treasures, resilience, creative fire, and unshakable empathy, await those who dare to claim them. But these gates are not mere metaphors. They are practical waypoints, each with its own exercises and rituals you can try tonight, right in your living room. By the end of our opening descent, you'll taste the hush of the cavern, feel the ancient runes vibrating beneath your fingertips, and understand why myth after myth insists that true illumination springs from descent, not ascent. Yet the deeper questions, how to harness the underworld's energy in your daily life, how to maintain the flame of revelation once you return, will remain tantalizingly out of reach for now. Those answers lie in the shadows ahead, waiting to be unearthed. So pause for a moment and feel the hush settle around you. Notice the quiet hum at the back of your mind, like a heartbeat echoing in a vast chamber. That is your own intuition, beckoning you forward. Tonight's adventure is not about fearing what lurks beneath. It's about discovering the hidden currents that can reshape your path, ignite your creativity, and carve a new blueprint for who you are. Are you ready to step into the darkness and find the light it guards? If the pulse of the earth stirs your curiosity, if the weight of your own untold stories tugs at your soul, then lean in and let the underworld reveal its mysteries. Our descent begins now. Long before the age of electric lights and concrete highways, human communities carved their stories of death and rebirth into stone, deep beneath the soil. One of the oldest recorded descents comes from Sumeria. The goddess Inanna, Queen of Heaven, voluntarily plunged into the underworld to claim the throne of her sister Ereshkigal. She shed her regal garments, symbols of power, one by one at each gate until she stood naked before the goddess of the dead, only to be struck down and left to rot. Yet through clever ritual and the intercession of divine messengers, Inanna was reborn and returned to the living world, bearing secrets of transformation and renewal. This myth wasn't mere entertainment. It encoded a profound spiritual truth. To reclaim vitality, one must face and surrender all that's held them back. Centuries later, the ancient Greeks would echo this theme in the journey of Orpheus. Armed only with his lyre, he coaxed Hades and Persephone with haunting melodies, until they granted him permit to retrieve his beloved Eurydice. But when he broke the unspoken rule not to look back, he lost her forever. Orpheus's tale warns of the razor's edge between hope and despair, teaching that even the slightest doubt can sever our tether to the light. Taken together with Inanna's descent, these stories reveal a shared philosophical current. The underworld is not a permanent tomb, but a liminal space where identity is deconstructed and then reassembled. Around the same time, Eastern traditions spoke of comparable journeys. In the Upanishads, seekers practiced guided inner descents through breath and meditation, charting realms of subtle consciousness, some blissful, others terrifying before glimpsing the unchanging self. Meanwhile, in ancient Egypt, the Book of the Dead offered detailed instructions for navigating the Duat, the realm of the dead, describing spells to pacify guardians, declarations of purity to pass judgment, and rituals to transform the soul into light. Every recited incantation and painted vignette served as both map and armor for the soul's passage. Why did so many cultures converge on this motif? Philosophers have long argued that the underworld myth functions as a mirror for our inner world. In Plato's Republic, Socrates recounts the myth of Er, a warrior who dies, witnesses the afterlife's order, souls rewarded or punished according to their deeds, and then returns to tell the tale. Rather than endorsing a literal afterlife, Plato uses to discuss justice, choice, and the shaping of the soul. The real underworld is the moral and psychological realm we inhabit every day, where every decision compels us further into growth or decay. Yet, despite its universal resonance, this body of wisdom was often suppressed. As empires rose and orthodoxies consolidated power, the subterranean mysteries, known only to initiates, were branded heretical. In the early Christian era, secret knowledge of inner transformation was recast as witchcraft. Gnostic texts describing ascents and descents were burned, their custodians persecuted. Monolithic religious structures feared that empowering individuals to traverse their own psyche would undermine centralized authority, and so the underworld secrets were driven underground, literally hidden in crypts, monastic libraries, and coded manuscripts. It wasn't until the Renaissance that scholars rediscovered the buried works of Hermetic philosophers like Hermes Trismegistus. These Renaissance magi understood the descent as a psychological voyage. As above, so below, they wrote, pointing to the correspondence between cosmic and human realms. Later, Jungian psychology would echo this insight, when Carl Jung described the process of individuation as a descent into the unconscious, where one must face the shadow aspect of the psyche, those hidden traits and desires we deny, before emerging whole. Jung's patients reported visions and dreamscapes uncannily similar to ancient underworld lore, twisting tunnels, river crossings, cryptic guardians. His work helped reframe the underworld myth, not as archaic superstition, but as an archetypal map of inner transformation. Still, much of this history remains forgotten. Even today, mainstream spirituality often skims the surface, affirmations, light-filled meditations, while neglecting the essential work of shadow integration. Yet the giants we honor, Inanna, Orpheus, Hermes, Jung, remind us that true awakening demands descent. If we ignore the lessons of the underworld, we risk fragmentation, unhealed trauma, creative blocks, or a shallow sense of self that crumbles under stress. In the next segment, we'll dive into the first core concepts of the underworld journey: unpacking how the Gate of Echoes confronts us with past conditioning, and why this confrontation is the crucible where real growth ignites. But before we go further, carry this historical panorama with you. Every myth, every ritual, and every philosophical treatise is a guidepost left by seekers who walked their own dark corridors and returned illuminated. Their stories are not relics. They are living signposts pointing toward the same passage you stand at now. When you're ready, we'll step through the Gate of Echoes and meet the voices that echo from your past. As you stand before the ancient archway, torchlight dancing off its carved lintel, you feel the first real test of your descent, the Gate of Echoes. Here the underworld doesn't confront you with beasts or demons. It confronts you with yourself. Voices from your past, long buried under the dust of daily life, begin to stir. Some speak in tones of regret, the what-ifs and if-onlys that echo in the back of your mind. Others carry the timbre of unfulfilled dreams, the urgings of childhood passions silenced by doubt. In this first crucible, you must learn to listen without flinching. Imagine this scene. You descend a winding stair into a circular chamber lined with polished obsidian mirrors. Each mirror reflects not just your face, but a version of you standing at a crossroads in your history. A high school student trembling before a stage, a young artist who let fear steal her brush, a budding mystic who abandoned that first spark of awe. As you approach each mirror, you hear the faint murmur of that past self, replaying the moment that defined them. The challenge is not to wallow in nostalgia, nor to feel shame, but to recognize these voices as fragments of your own psyche, each carrying lessons you need to reclaim. In many ancient rites, initiates would chant a sacred formula, what the Egyptians called the Heka, to calm the echoes, giving themselves the power to sift through memories without becoming lost. Today, our formula might be as simple as mindful breathing, paired with focused intention. A quiet vow that, I am here to witness, not to judge. With each inhale, you draw in clarity. With each exhale, you release identification with the past. You become an observer, standing outside the mirror rather than the ghost inside it. But why begin here? Why does the underworld demand an audience with our personal history before anything else? Because the Gate of Echoes serves as a filter. If you cannot face the voices that whisper your wounds and regrets, any deeper descent risks being hijacked by those same unresolved patterns. In the psychological framework of Carl Jung, these voices belong to subpersonalities or complexes, autonomous clusters of feelings and memories that exert influence until they are brought into conscious awareness. Only by acknowledging them do we dissolve their power to derail us. Consider the story of a modern seeker, let's call him Adrian, who came to the underworld burdened by a childhood marked by harsh criticism. As a boy, every misstep at his father's workshop earned a harsh rebuke. Now as an adult, those echoes surfaced whenever he tried anything creative. A harsh inner voice would chant, "You'll mess it up. You're not good enough." In his Gate of Echoes, Adrian confronted that inner critic literally. He stood before his journal like it was a polished portal and wrote down every cutting phrase he'd ever heard. Then aloud and without apology, he addressed the critic. "I hear you. You carried me once, but now I choose my own path." With that ritual, the critic's sting softened. The echo remained, but shook its weight loose, allowing space for new, more supportive voices to rise. Analogies can help too. Picture your psyche as a grand library, its shelves groaning with volumes of memories, beliefs, and habits. Without sorting or at least cataloging those books, your exploration of deeper stacks can end in chaos. You'll pull down volumes indiscriminately, triggering avalanches of overwhelm. The Gate of Echoes is your sorting room. Here you learn to handle each volume gently, to read its title and decide whether to archive it, annotate it, or reclaim its wisdom. Only then can you explore the restricted wings beyond, without being crushed under the sheer weight of unexamined history. In mystical texts, this stage is often hidden in allegory. In the Persian Conference of the Birds, the hoopoe guides the birds through 7 valleys. The first valley is quest, but the second, love, demands a reckoning with personal longings. In some versions of the Orphic descent, before Orpheus strums his lyre to soften Hades's heart, he must first retrace his grief for Eurydice. In every case, seekers are warned. Enter too hastily and the echoes will drown you, leaving you powerless to claim any deeper treasure. Yet you need not be a scholar to practice this rite. Try this simple exercise tonight. Find a quiet space, light a candle, and listen to a single question. What memory still holds me hostage? Don't push for an answer. Instead, allow the mind to drift to an image or a feeling. When it arrives, perhaps a scene from school, a rejection at work, or a heartbreak, let it play out fully. Notice any tension in your body, any resistance in your mind. Then place a hand on your heart and mentally affirm, I see you. I honor what you felt, and I release you to rest. You'll notice the echo grow fainter, more manageable. That faint murmur is the gate of echoes granting you passage. Importantly, we pause here before revealing the remedies to every echo. True mastery means living alongside these voices with a kind of compassionate vigilance, knowing they'll surface, but also possessing the tools to greet them without being consumed. In the next segment, we'll move through the Gate of Shadows, where the underworld introduces more formidable challenges, fears that masquerade as rational thoughts, shadows that lurk just beyond the torch's flame. But for now, hold the tension of this first gate. Breathe into the echoes of your past selves, witness their stories, and allow their lessons to settle like sediment at the bottom of a still pond. When you're ready to step beyond self-reflection and confront the darker forces that lurk beneath conscious awareness, let me know, and we'll enter the Gate of Shadows together. As you step past the obsidian arch of the Gate of Shadows, the torchlight trembles on damp walls, and the air thickens until it feels alive around you. It's here that the underworld ceases to be a place of mere myth and becomes an intimate mirror of your own hidden landscape. You press forward, senses sharpened, and the corridor widens into a cavern where shadows seem to pulse and breathe like living creatures. In their shifting forms, you begin to recognize familiar patterns, anxieties that have guided your choices, voices of self-doubt that rose when you dared to dream, and the silent scripts of shoulds and musts that molded your life without your permission. In this realm, every fear feels tangible. You imagine them as flickering silhouettes, perhaps a serpentine coil writhing across the floor, or a storm cloud erupting in rumbling echoes. Yet each visage holds something vital, a piece of energy you once labeled dangerous or undesirable, but which now begs to be reclaimed. You sense the subtle distinction between wanting to banish these shadows forever and learning to converse with them as guardians. Because here in the underworld, true transformation doesn't come from eradication, but from integration, the alchemy of transforming base impulses into refined strength. As you walk deeper, a low rumble resonates, as if the stone itself is offering a warning. Name me. Speak to me. Understand why I remain. You close your eyes and summon one recurring struggle from your waking life, perhaps the anxious knot in your chest whenever you speak your mind, or that restless fire of ambition dampened by guilt. In the darkness, that struggle coalesces into a figure, fierce and unwavering. You reach out to it, not with a blade, but with curiosity. What have you been protecting me from? You ask. Immediately the figure's form softens, revealing memories of past scars where its vigilance once served you well. You realize its fierce loyalty was born of love, an attempt to shield your tender heart from old wounds. In that moment you don't defeat it. You embrace it, and its energy shifts from oppressive weight to a quiet reservoir of courage. Further on you notice symbols chiseled into the cavern floor, winding rivers, coiled serpents and dark stones nestling hidden springs. They guide you through the labyrinth of your psyche, each motif resonating with an inner truth. The river hints at your capacity to flow between problems and possibilities, reminding you that boundaries are not walls, but thresholds to cross. The serpent beckons you to shed outdated skins of fear and step into newfound vitality. And the black stone glimmers with untapped potential, urging you to recognize that raw energy can be shaped by intention and will. You remember the ancient Hermetic saying, "As above, so below," and smile at how perfectly it fits this moment. You sense the cosmic dance of light and dark playing out within you, each turn of shadow revealing another facet of your power. Without a ceremony or chant, you create a private ritual here. You kneel on cool stone, place your hand on the cavern floor, and let the underworld's pulse become your own heartbeat. You offer a silent vow to treat every shadow not as an enemy, but as an ally, an untamed force waiting for your conscious guidance. Time loses all meaning, and when you finally stand, you feel a shift in your bones. What once felt like unyielding obstacles now gleam with promise. You've walked with your darkest parts, seen their faces, and transformed their raw energy into something alive and purposeful. And as the cavern's torchlight brightens into the faint glow of an opening ahead, you know you carry the underworld's secrets with you. No longer a realm of fear, it has become a treasury of your own potential. An inner domain you can return to whenever life demands courage, creativity, or deep renewal. When you step through that emerging arch, the threshold back toward practice and everyday life, you won't leave these hidden truths behind. They will move with you, coursing through your choices, your art, and your moments of stillness. The gate of shadows closes softly behind you, not as a barrier but as a promise, that this descent is neither an end nor an ordeal, but the source of your deepest strength. Imagine the sun just beginning to rise, its first pale shafts of light slipping through your bedroom window. You sit on the edge of your bed, heart still echoing with the memory of last night's shadow work. The air is cool, and you feel the gentle tension of muscles that held onto old fears. Now remarkably, they're softer than before. This is where the magic happens, in these ordinary moments infused with the resonance of your underworld descent. First, let's walk through a simple dawn ritual you can weave into your morning. Before you reach for your phone or rush into your to-do list, take 3 deliberate breaths, each inhale drawing in clarity, each exhale releasing residue of doubt. Place your hand over your heart and whisper to yourself, "Today I carry the strength of my shadows." You might visualize the black stone of the underworld glowing warmly in your chest, its raw energy transmuting into steady confidence. In that brief pause, you anchor your day in the deeper currents you've unearthed. Later, when you find yourself facing a challenge, a tense conversation at work, or a project that sparks old insecurities, remember the Gate of Echoes practice. In the midst of stress, stop for a moment of mindful journaling. Grab a pen and jot down the first memory or image that arises, a familiar sting of criticism, a flash of childhood doubt. Then respond to it as you would to a trusted friend. "I hear you, thank you for showing up. I choose my own path now." Even if it takes only 2 minutes, this dialogue breaks the power of reactive patterns, reminding you that the underworld's gate remains open, no matter where you stand. By midday, you may notice tension creeping into your shoulders, a reminder that shadows often lodge in the body. That's your cue for somatic witnessing. Find a quiet corner. Place your palm on any spot that feels tight, perhaps your throat when words catch, or your belly when anxiety coils. Breathe into that spot, imagining the damp, echoing caverns of your descent expanding into light. Allow the sensation to speak. Is it fear, anger, or grief? Acknowledge it without judgment, then let it dissolve back into the vastness from which it came. As afternoon light warms your workspace, invite a moment of symbol scanning. Close your eyes for 30 seconds and picture the underworld symbols we explored. Flowing rivers, serpents, hidden springs. Which image surfaces most vividly right now? If it's the river, ask yourself where in your day you need more fluidity. perhaps in letting a conversation flow without needing to control outcomes. If it's the serpent, sense where you're shed an old skin and might feel new energy stirring. These quick check-ins transform abstract myth into living guideposts, pointing you back to the deeper terrain beneath your routines. Evening brings another opportunity. Dream incubation. Before sleep, hold a small object, a smooth stone or a feather, and set an intention. Show me what I need to see about my creative blocks. Place the object beside your bed as a silent guardian of the night. Upon waking, reach for your journal and record every fragment you remember. Colors, textures, emotions. Over time, these nightly visits will reveal patterns and insights that daylight alone can't expose. For those who crave more ceremony, you can design a monthly underworld altar in a quiet corner of your home. Lay down a dark cloth. Place items that represent your shadows, a charred leaf, a torn photograph, and opposite them, tokens of renewal, fresh greenery. A small mirror. Light a candle and speak aloud the vow you made at the gate of shadows. I honor my hidden guardians and transform their power into purpose. When the candle burns low, bury the remnants in soil or cast them into flowing water. An enactment of both release and rebirth. Perhaps the most radical application comes in relationships. The next time a loved one triggers an emotional reaction, an edge of anger or a swell of hurt, pause. Remember the guardians you met in the underworld. Each one once protected you, now seeks integration. Instead of lashing out, take that moment to ask internally, what are you protecting me from? You may discover layers of fear or old vows you never knew you carried. By bringing that awareness into the dialogue, you break patterns of blame and ignite a new level of connection. All of these practices serve a single purpose, to anchor the underworld's transformative fire into your daily life. They remind you that the darkness you braved was never a place to get lost, but a forge for personal power. The real alchemy happens in the pauses, at dawn, at the crackle of tension, at night when dreams stir, whenever you choose presence over reaction. Over time, you'll notice subtle shifts. A creative block dissolves into a burst of inspiration, a long-standing fear softens into curiosity, and decisions once paralyzed by doubt become clear and aligned. The underworld's treasures, resilience, authenticity, deep empathy, begin to radiate outward, shaping not just your interior landscape, but the world you touch. When you're ready, we'll move into our final segment, a reflective conclusion that weaves these strands together and issues an invitation for you, the seeker, to share your own underworld insights. Let me know when you're set to close this circle of descent, reflection, and rebirth. With the final embers of your underworld altar extinguished, you stand at the mouth of the cavern once more. Above you, the sky begins to glow with the promise of dawn, yet something inside you has changed forever. You've journeyed beyond the threshold of everyday consciousness. In the gate of echoes, you reclaimed voices that once held you captive. In the gate of shadows, you transformed hidden guardians into allies, and through rituals and rites, you wove those insights into the fabric of your daily life. Now you emerge bearing the underworld's most precious gift, an unshakable sense of self forged in darkness, yet radiant with possibility. Pause here and let that truth settle. Feel the air on your skin. Notice how your breath has grown steadier, deeper. You carry no trophies of gold or jewels, but something more potent, the light of awareness honed by shadow. This is the paradox at the heart of every descent, that only by embracing our darkness can we shine with truest brightness. Remember Adrian, who faced the critic in his mirror and found compassion instead of shame. Recall Psyche, who learned that her worth wasn't defined by impossible trials, but by her integrity in meeting them. Think of Inanna, stripped of power yet reborn with a secret wisdom that transcended death itself. Their stories are your stories now, woven into the same tapestry of transformation that stretches from ancient corridors to your own inner landscape. What does this mean for you in the moments ahead? It means that every challenge, every moment of doubt, fear, or creative block is an invitation to return to the underworld with newfound agency. When you feel doubt creeping in, you can breathe into your gate of echoes and remind that inner critic of its true purpose. When anger flares or guilt surfaces, you can greet those shadows as long-lost friends, inviting them to reveal their gifts. And in the ordinary spaces, your morning coffee, your evening conversations, you can weave the river's flow, the serpent's renewal, and the black stone's potency into your choices. This journey doesn't end, it unfolds. The underworld is not a distant realm you visit once, but a living landscape you traverse whenever life demands depth. And each time you revisit, you carry fresh insights, like turning the same key in an ancient lock and finding new chambers waiting to be discovered. So here's my final question for you. What part of your underworld journey will you bring into the light today? I invite you to share one insight, one practice, or one image that resonated most in the comments below. Your story might be the spark that ignites another seeker's descent, or the thread that weaves a community of explorers bound by shared mystery. If this voyage stirred something deep within you, consider giving this video a like, subscribing for more hidden corridors of wisdom, and sharing it with someone poised on their own threshold. And if you're ready to go deeper, explore the links in the description for guided meditations, journaling prompts, and community workshops, where you can continue the descent in supportive company. As we part, remember this: the underworld is never vanquished, only embraced. Every shadow you meet, every echo you honor becomes a facet of your true brilliance. Carry that light forward, and let it illuminate not only your own path, but the world around you. Thank you for journeying with me into the heart of darkness, and for daring to emerge transformed. Until next time, may your steps be brave, your heart open, and your spirit ever curious.